Why Stalin tortured his daughter-in-law. Joseph Stalin had 2 wives and 2 sons, and each one's story ended in tragedy. Stalin's first wife died a year after marrying him, but that was in 1907, and little is known about her. Still, she managed to give birth to a son, Yakov. Stalin's second, Nadezhda lasted longer. She gave the dictator another son, Vasily. This is what happened to them. Yakov bore Stalin's real surname, Jugashvili. One day, Yakov attended a reception. One of the guests was a famous Jewish Ukrainian ballerina. Yulia Meltzer was married to an NKVD officer. At the reception, she fought with her husband. This caught Yakov's eye. A son of Joseph Stalin, Yakov was all-powerful. The first thing he did was arrange Yulia's divorce. The second was to have Rex arrested and executed. Stalin felt both of his sons were a disappointment. In fact, he drove his second wife to suicide at 31. Stalin hated Yulia from the very beginning. He apparently threatened Yakov in his office. Yakov pulled out a gun and shot himself right there and then. Stalin calmly called for a doctor. The doctor pronounced the wound survivable.
He can't even shoot straight,
Stalin said, disgusted. He made sure to execute most of his first wife's family. Yakov was left all alone, but Yulia stood by him. They were legally married in 1938. 3 years later, Germany invaded the Soviet Union. Stalin ensured that Yakov went to the front lines. He served as a lieutenant with a battery of the 14th Howitzer Regiment of the 14th Tank Division. A mere month after the invasion, Yakov was captured by the Germans. His own comrades willingly gave him up. They hated Yakov for his arrogance and devotion to Stalin. The Germans thought they had a valuable prize at their hands. Stalin was angered when he learned of Yakov's capture. He had just given the order that banned Soviet soldiers from surrendering to Stalin, who had never served himself. It was the ultimate act of cowardice. Stalin said that Yakov should have killed himself. He took his wrath out on Yulia. Yulia was arrested and tortured. After months of interrogations, she was sent away. She would spend the next 5 years in a prison camp. Little is known about her subsequent fate. She was reportedly very ill and died of cancer in 1968, age 55. She never danced again, and she never saw Yakov either. Held in a POW camp, he was often interrogated. The transcripts survived and were published in Germany after the war. Yakov said he despised the Red Army in Britain. He also turned out to be an anti-Semite, despite his wife's background.
No one in our country respects the Jews,
he told the Nazis. Then the Soviets captured Field Marshal Friedrich von Paulus. Germany offered to exchange Yakov for Paulus.
I will not trade a marshal for a lieutenant,
Stalin scoffed. Hitler personally offered to exchange Yakov for Leo Rommel. Rommel was his nephew, also captured by the Soviets. Stalin refused. On April 14, 1943, Yakov Jugashvili died at the Sachsenhausen camp. Accounts differ, but it was an apparent suicide by guard. He deliberately disobeyed orders until a guard shot him in the head.
Fate treated him unjustly,
Stalin conceded on hearing the news. His second son Vasily never saw combat. He served in Moscow, where he spent most of his time drinking. One of his pranks ended with Vasily killing his CO. He was demoted but otherwise unpunished. After his father's death, he was arrested by the new government. He was jailed and died of alcoholism 2 years after his release. What a family, right?